Welcome back to Morning Express. It's time for us to discuss your finances and your money, where we hope by the end of the day, you become more financially intelligent. And well, today we're talking about a bucket list. And I know many of us, if not all of us, have that thing that you desire to one time possess, or that place that you'd love to go. For you, it's always been a dream, but what is hindering you from achieving that dream is probably the cost or how to financially bridge that gap. And that's what we call a bucket list. For some, it could be a holiday in the Bahamas or the Caribbean, or maybe go to the UK and, I don't know, visit somebody there. Whatever your bucket list is, how do you achieve that financially speaking? Because many of us, let's be honest, we live hand to mouth. And we're going to have the phone lines open in case you find that maybe there's a question that you'd like to ask. Maybe there's a comment that you'd like to throw in. Feel free to do that either via telephone, or you can also do that via Twitter. The Twitter handles are also going to be displayed on your screen as we carry on with the conversation. Now, joining me to have that conversation is Manyara Kirago, who is a financial counselor. Good morning.
Good morning to you.
And thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Now, is it true that many of us, if not all of us, actually have a desire or a dream that we'd like to achieve, but the only thing that is hindering us from achieving that dream is probably finances?
Well, it's very true that we would like to, each of us would like to do something special, something that they'll remember the rest of their lives. But money seems to get in the way. That's very true. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, how do we go about achieving that? Because most of the things in our bucket list could be considered a luxury or a non-essential to some extent. I mean, it could be a noble thing. It might even be to build your parents a house. But when we look at our financial habits and what we have left in our pockets, then it becomes a dream and remains a piped dream.
Well, what we need to do is incorporate whatever we want to achieve in our financial plan. What you're calling a bucket list should be part of your financial goals. Now, your financial goals will range from normal things like educating your children, if you have children, buying your own home if you don't have one yet, and such things. Mm-hmm. Now, that special dream you have, like you said, maybe a holiday, could also be one of those financial goals. Mm-hmm. And those financial goals, there's a way to set them to make sure that they're actually achievable.
Okay.
And what you do mm-hmm. is we say that they should be SMART. Mm-hmm. And SMART is an acronym, which means they should be specific. Mm-hmm. Specific in terms of how much it's going to cost you to achieve that goal and the time frame within which you're going to achieve it. Mm-hmm. And then secondly, they should be mutually agreed between you and your significant other, if you have one. Mm-hmm.
If you're alone, then you mutually agree with yourself.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay.
And mm-hmm. then also, they should be attainable. By this I mean, with relation to your with your income and your other things you need to achieve, how does it fit in? Because it's one thing to say, yes, I want to go to the Bahamas, but if your income cannot even take you to Mombasa, it's not achievable. Mm-hmm. So it should be achievable, mm-hmm. and not only absolutely in terms of whether you can manage to go there, but you must also realize that that's not the only thing you're doing. You're also taking care of your family if you have a family. You're also preparing for your own retirement eventually. Right. So there are other things you're doing. Mm-hmm. So how does it fit in with those? Mm-hmm. And then also it should be part of your financial plan, which should be a recorded financial plan. Mm-hmm. And then you must also remember that you have to make trade-offs. You have to give up some things in order to achieve others. Okay, I want to go for that trip in Bahamas. Yes, somehow it can fit in my budget. But for me to do that, I'll have to give up a few luxuries. I have to give up a few other things. Mm-hmm. Maybe I might say that instead of going out with my friends every weekend, I cut down on
sacrifice on that.
Absolutely, I cut down on that. Maybe I go out with them every month. Okay. So that I have some money left that I can put aside towards that particular project.
Yes. All right, now let's dissect further this acronym SMART. And the first thing you've said is specific.
Yes.
What is it that I need to do to ensure that it's specific? Is it specific enough to say that I would like to go on a holiday?
Saying you want to go on a holiday is very, very broad. You will have to break it down now to where do you want to go for the holiday, how much will it cost, and when do you want to do this. Now, when you once you've broken it down that way, you'll now be able to put it into practice. For instance, if I say I want to go to the Bahamas 5 years from today, and it'll cost me X amount. That way, I'm able to break it down to how much do I need to put aside per month towards that. And then what I do is I go and put a standing order in my bank account. So when my pay comes in, a specific amount is removed from there, and then it's put to that place where I'm saving up for money for that specific goal. That way, you will be able to actually accumulate the money.
Able to quantify
Yes.
it and put a time frame to it.
Yes.
Okay. Now, you've also talked about being attainable, still part of the acronym. And one might say that the reason why I am actually putting it in my financial plan is that I cannot afford it off my salary to go. I can't say I'll go next month.
Yes.
But maybe in a year, I am able to do that. How do I work on, or how do I know or quantify what is attainable for me? Because let's face it, I may say in a year I may be able to save up, I don't know, 300,000 to just splash out on a holiday.
Yes.
But again, that may not be practical given how much I earn per month.
Yes. Now, attainable, by saying we need to do something that's attainable, plan something that's attainable, we need to look at all the other things which we need to do in our lives. And that brings in our budget. Okay, I'm earning X amount per month. How much do I need for living expenses? How much do I need for housing? How much do I need for, how much am I putting away for my retirement? How much am I putting away for other things? So within that budget, can the amount which I need to put away for that specific goal, that the holiday, can it fit there? That's how you say we find out whether it's attainable.
Whether it's attainable.
Yes.
Now, let's talk about financial habits, because for us to achieve that dream that we want, we have to have a certain culture, as it were, financially speaking. But you'll find that sometimes our cultures are driven by the fact that the amount of money we earn and what society expects from us really does not help us to have a very healthy habit financially. How does one change that?
Actually, it's true that too many of us are driven very much by peer pressure.
Right.
And we find ourselves, simply because you're wearing a nice suit, and I also want to wear the same designer suit.
You want to belong.
I want to belong. But one of the things we need to question ourselves is, are we buying the friendship? Are we buying ownership? Are we buying belonging into that particular peer group? You might even go further and ask yourself, is that where you really want to belong? Because you might find that there's another group where they don't look at superficial things. They look at more
Better investments.
not necessarily investments, but things which are not so superficial. Like, for instance, a good life for the family. For instance, being able to ensure that you're developing financial security for yourself. And those sometimes they're the exact opposite of the people who look at superficial things. Because people who look at superficial things will be looking at the car you drive. It doesn't matter that you are being chased by auctioneers. So long as you drive that car, they think you're doing well. And so we need to question ourselves, are we really trying to get into the right peer group? Are we surrounding ourselves with the people who have positive values? Yes.
So that brings us down to values. And are there certain values, financially speaking, that would say are the best practice? Are there values that we can look at? Because again, the need to belong is what drives us to do some of these things. For instance, maybe I've just gotten a new job and I want to live in a certain area because, when everybody asks, when you go for a gathering and you're having your drink, somebody asks, so where do you live? I want to belong. I want to say I live in that area where everybody else is living. Are there certain values that can help me now achieve that so that I'm not pressured by the bad values?
Well, I think it's just your outlook, the way you look at things. Because I don't think that you need to feel pressured simply because you're not living where
everybody else. Yeah, or where my peers would like me to speak.
Yes, and we also need to look at things in the long term. Because really, if you're living in that expensive rented house and you are not doing anything for your future, what will happen come the end of your employment. You'll end up going to a much cheaper house. You'll end up in a very bad financial situation. However, if you resisted that urge to match up with those peers who look at nice rented houses as something very important, if you resisted that, you would be able to live in a house that you can really afford, so that you're accumulating money, so that eventually you can live in your own house. So it's really the way you look at things. Yeah.
Okay, now I've heard some say, and this is in regards to saving, that it is not about the amount of money that you earn that should determine your saving. For instance, you can have 10% saving regardless of how much you earn. But of course, practically speaking, some of these things sound very good on paper, and they sound very, very nice to implement. But practically,
yes,
if I'm earning 20,000 shillings, for example, am I able to save? How do I save?
This is very difficult for most people to grasp. And the reason I say it's difficult is because they start off, I'm earning this much, but I want to live in this place. Now, if you choose to live in a place where the rent is already consuming half the income, then definitely you will...
Saving becomes a problem.
It will be impossible. So the key thing is to be absolutely realistic. This is how much I earn. And although I would like to live in that place, I will live in this place so that I organize my finances, so that I get out of this poverty. So that as I'm putting money away, I may be able to invest in a business or invest in myself, so that my skills improve, I'm able to earn more. So in the long term, I will get out of here. But if I force myself to live in a house or to live a lifestyle which does not leave me with anything to uplift myself, then I'm stuck. In fact, it's always said that you should spend less than you earn. And the reason is, if you spend all that you earn, you're just treading water. And the minute and the minute your income stops, you're sunk. But if you spend less than you earn, no matter how difficult it is, and of course it will not be easy, you will find that whatever is left, now you can use that to lift yourself out of poverty. And you'll find that even in any organization, some people who have very, very low income, they are able to save because they force themselves to save. And others who have a very high income, by the 5th of the month, they're already broke. And that happens everywhere.
Okay.
Yeah.
So are there percentages that one can work with in terms of, you can now say, when it comes to accommodation or where I live, it should be a certain percentage. When it comes to transport, I should ensure that I allocate a certain percentage. Are there percentages you can work with so that, because with saving, I'm told that 10% is what you should put aside?
Okay. I really try to avoid percentages because each individual's life is different. Like, for instance, a person who has 5 kids and another one who is a single person, the amounts they will be able to save if they're earning the same amount will be very, very, very different. So I always say that it should be the amount you save should be driven by the goals that you have and your financial situation. But in general, spending more than between 15 to 20% of your income on rent, things begin to get a bit hairy there. And as of how much you should save, they say 10%, but 10% is only towards your retirement. And remember, you have other goals. With most people that I work with, when I'm doing their personal financial plans or when we're doing financial coaching, we find that most of the people who change their financial situation in a positive way, in a remarkable way, save upwards of 20 to 30% of their monthly income.
Wow, and it is possible to achieve that 20 to 30% saving?
Absolutely. It looks difficult, but once you streamline your finances, it is not.
Where do we go wrong when it comes to, because you say it looks difficult, and I believe many will probably agree it feels difficult, especially at the beginning point. Where do we go wrong when we're trying to come up with that plan?
The first thing is we don't even operate on a budget, most of us.
Correct.
Most of us just spend until the money is finished. When it's finished, we stop spending, wait for the next payday.
Paycheck.
When the paycheck comes through, we spend, and the cycle goes on and on. Now, when you live like that, it becomes very difficult for you to achieve big things. Okay, you will survive, yes, but then buying a home will be very difficult for you. When it comes to taking your children to college, it will be very difficult. And the saddest thing will be when you eventually retire, because then things will get really, really difficult. So we need to control our expenditure by having a budget. A budget, I know that word doesn't sound very, very attractive.
It's not very appealing.
It's not very appealing, that's true. Well, so why don't you just change it around a bit and call it my spending plan, how I'm going to spend my money. Because most of us know to the shilling how much we earn. Most of us, especially if you're employed, you know to the shilling how much you earn. But when it comes to spending, most of us don't know how much you spend. It looks, we might think that we do, but we don't. In fact, if you record your expenditure through the month, you'll be very shocked when you add it up at the end of the month, because you'll find that there are some categories where you never thought you spend much money, especially things like entertainment and eating out and clothes and such. You probably never thought that you spend much, but when you record it and actually look at it, you'll be shocked. And maybe that's when you can now begin to start making changes. Even small things like the grocery shopping. Many of us just walk into a supermarket, no shopping list, no nothing. And you find, I always say that I look at people in the supermarket, you find a family going in there, you find the husband is pushing the trolley, you know.
First of all, very annoyed because the lady seems to be taking too long.
Absolutely, you know, he just wants to get over with it.
Get out of here.
He's been brought
I can identify with that.
And of course, because we're always given the donkey work, we have to push the trolley.
Right.
And then there are the kids and the mom busy throwing things into the, and there's no shopping list in sight. When the supermarket, of course, see this, they're very happy because they know, money is...
It sells for them.
Because even the way it's arranged.
Structured.
The way it's arranged. Merchandising is art and science of putting things so that it's so irresistible. For instance, why do you think the milk is at the back? It's not by flukes.
They make sure you'll have to walk to the back to get it.
And by the time you get there, you see so many other things that you're tempted. The things which kids love, they put at eye level for them.
And right at the till, near the till.
What's there? Chocolates and what?
And sweets and lollipops and all that.
So, and also, in addition to that, even the smells in the supermarket these days, they have got, they usually have a section where they have the foods, and if you go there hungry, chances are you...
Yes, in fact, I was reading a survey, and apparently if you shop when you're hungry, you probably shop more than when you're satisfied. It's been proved scientifically.
Yes, that's
on things that, and not just food, you actually shop on everything more because somehow you want to satisfy a certain hunger. Now, is there a difference, a distinct difference between a financial plan and a budget?
Yes. A budget is specifically how you're going to spend the income. A financial plan is the broader thing. What are your goals? And then it covers more than just goals. It also covers about investments. It also covers about risk management. Because one of the areas where many of us end up in trouble is that you may be doing very well, saving and investing, and then because life is unpredictable, something happens and you find that you have a huge hospital bill. And then all the money which you've been saving and investing, now you're forced to take it and go and pay the hospital bill, you're back to square one. So we also need risk management. And also we need to plan our estate. That means having a will. Now, that bigger picture, that is your financial plan. Budget is the narrow aspect of the income and expenditure. We call it cash flow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, one other aspect that is very key and crucial is that we don't learn some of this what they call financial intelligence or financial knowledge in school. It's not something that you're given a subject, and today we're going to talk about financial intelligence. It's something that we always seem to learn on the go. Is there a way of passing on this information to our children or our generations behind us so that they don't go through the same issues that we keep reinventing the wheel, financially speaking?
In fact, that's one of the saddest things that many of us learned the hard way. And by the time we learn, the years have gone. And so it's difficult. There have been a few attempts at trying to educate people, giving people personal financial skills. I remember that Equity Bank has got one such initiative. But in general, in school, in college, in schools, there is nothing about personal finance that's taught. And it's sad because it would really save a lot of people a lot of heartache and stress. In fact, personal financial education, that's what we do and I do as an individual. That is what I live for. I teach people how to manage their finances, how to invest, and how to build a financial plan, and also help individuals who they might feel they're stuck. Maybe they know all the theory, but putting it in practice becomes another thing. So I work one-on-one with them to help them to achieve the goals.
To achieve that.
Yeah.
Okay, how does one actually translate that? Because just like our laws in Kenya don't stop us from certain things that we've tried to stop for a long time, it's not that we don't have information. We have so many financial books out there. We have many billionaires and millionaires who've written books and saying this is how to become a millionaire. And we have read these books, but somehow putting it into practice becomes a problem. Where is the disconnect? Because we have the desire, we want to.
It is true. It is true that the knowledge is not even, it's not even complex. It's very simple. It's not rocket science. But putting it into practice is not very popular because, first of all, it requires discipline and it requires patience. And those are two things that most of us don't have. In fact, most of us want instant gratification. And it's a cultural thing, I think, and we'll have to develop it over time to teach our people that good things usually take time. And if you want something, you have to plan for it. And sometimes you need to give up something else so as to achieve it. But in the end, it will be worth it. But as it stands now, people are not, they're not that patient. They want it right now.
Right here,
and
right now.
That is the problem.
Maureen asks via Twitter, is having a grand wedding, a grandiose wedding, a wise thing to have on a bucket list?
That's just like many of these other things which many of us you set as goals. You would like to have it, but is it a wise thing? If you remember when I talked about goals, I said that they should be smart, they should be specific, mutually agreed upon, attainable. Now, when you come to attainable, that wedding, that grand wedding, grandiose wedding, is it something that you can afford? Or are you going to have to borrow? I've seen people taking big loans to finance weddings. And that borrowing to do something like that is already a financial mistake.
What should we borrow to do? What are the good things to borrow for?
In fact, that's what I was just about to say, that there are good loans and bad loans. And it's very, very important that we understand the difference. A good loan is when you're borrowing money to acquire something that's appreciating in value. Like, for instance, if you borrow money to buy a house and you can afford to pay for it, that's a good loan, because the value of the house will continue to increase, and eventually it will be more than the cost of the house plus the interest paid. So that's a good loan. Another good loan is if you borrow money and pay for a course which will increase your skills and ability to earn. That's a very good loan. Another good loan is if you borrow money and invest it in a viable business, a business that will bring you profit, and you know that when you borrow money for a business, the interest is tax deductible as an expense to the business. So it's a win-win situation for you.
I think because of time we'll have to wind up. But a quick question, because I know many people, the first thing they want to buy when they get a job is a car. Is a car a good loan?
Another one cannot be a very quick one. A car it's an asset which most of us like. However, if you cannot afford to have the car, if you cannot afford to you have it and still do the other things, save for the other things you need to save for, then you cannot afford it. Then you should not have it.
You should not have it.
But if you can have the car and still save for your house and for the other things,
go ahead.
Go ahead.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Murage, for your wise and wisdom regarding finances. That's why we'll have to wind up because of time. And thank you so much for participating in the conversation we've had all through. I'll just quickly refer to the Twitter poll question that we started off the show with. And this is the opposition leader right in raising the red flag on a project that he allegedly launched? And 63% of you say yes, and 37% of you say no, he is not right. That's where we're going to wind up our show this morning. Thank you so very much for keeping us company. We'll take this opportunity to wish you all a fantastic, a wonderful, and a productive day. Do not switch off. Do stay with us right here on KTN News. Coming up next is World View. Have a blessed day.